past time we put an end to the era of shareholder capitalism. The idea the only responsibility a corporation has is with shareholders. That's simply not true. It's an absolute farce. They have responsibility to their workers, their community, to their country. That is a new or radical notion. These are basic values and principles that helped build this nation in the first instance. Now the challenge is to take these fundamental values and apply them to the new economy we have to build in the years ahead. And folks, it's not sufficient to build back. We have to build back better. That's what my plan is, to build back better. It's bold, it's practical, and it's focused on building an economy for the future, not for the past. And it responds to 5 truths laid out in this moment of crisis. The first is that we've seen in the course of this pandemic that we need to strengthen our industrial base as long-term sources of middle-class job creation. Let's use this opportunity to take bold investments in American industry and innovation so the future is made in America, all in America. I do not accept the defeatist view that forecasted automation, that we need to strengthen our industry, build back. We have to build back better. These fundamental values.
is truth in journalism, where brave men and women gave voice to the voiceless. But then the corporations bought the journalist, poisoning the news that we are fed. With those tainted sources, all we ever ate was a steady diet of status quo. This hijacked narrative is the truth of mass suffering, injustice and corruption throughout our land. Status quo, status quo, status quo, status quo. To expose this shift to oligarchy came a band of honest journalists. They left the studio and hit the streets to give the microphone back to the people. From sea to sea, the people were empowered to share their truth. Their voices no longer stifled, reclaimed their power. Join the media revolution now.
Hey there, Jordan Sheridan, live with...
Jenn Dies. Hello, everybody.
Let me know if you could hear me, if you could hear Jen on this fateful Friday. What are we in? July 10th, 2020. We just got back from our reporting road trip. We started in New Jersey. Then we hit Allentown, Pennsylvania. Then we went to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Then we went to, where else did we go? Why is my mind blanking? Cleveland. Oh, Akron, Ohio.
Akron, yeah.
And then we went to Louisville, Kentucky. And quite the trip. We're going to play some videos, give our reaction to a lot of the reporting we did. Thank you already, Swirly Swirl, $5 in the super chat. Thanks for the road trip reporting. Indiana protests are getting heated throughout the state. We have so much growing left to do. Yeah, it's interesting because I reached out when we were in Louisville to, I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name right, Vox?
Yeah, we're trying to figure it out, Vox.
Who's a black man in Bloomington, Indiana, who was almost lynched, if not for people stopping these terrorists from lynching him. So we wanted to go from Louisville to Bloomington, but he didn't get back to us, understandably, assuming he's very shooken up. But fortunately, we've heard back, and hopefully we'll be able to set that interview up. Don't worry, Swirly Swirl. I think we'll be able to do another road trip in the near future, so maybe we'll hit Indiana. It all depends on Corona. Obviously, gotta keep safe. But thanks for the super chat. Keep those super chats coming. John War, you forgot my super chat about the Milwaukee police covering for the pedophiles. I only have one super chat here, pal. So
yeah, we don't see it.
If you wanna send it, I'll read it. I'm watching because I missed Jordan. Oh, don't get me started, love. So, very frustrating on the road trip because it seems that YouTube decided as we hit the road to cover important stories, they'd squeeze us a little bit more. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. We'll start on a positive note. Yeah. 160 people watching, 109 likes. So please, please, please press that like button. More people that press the like button, the more people that will see this very live stream. Going to take a quick detour here, Jen.
Yeah.
Actually, we'll talk about this later. I don't even think we have enough people watching yet. We'll talk about that later. But press the like button. Follow us at Status Coup. We're live there. I think we just passed 40,000 on Twitter. Follow us on Twitch, twitch.tv/Status Coup. And join our email list at statuscoup.com. Text messages, we'll talk about a little bit later. So there's so many stories to cover. I know that a lot of people are angry we haven't covered... am I pronouncing her name wrong? Ghislaine Maxwell. Yeah. I know you're going to do a video on that because that's your cup of tea, and you're an expert on that. All I have to say is I give her a couple days, unfortunately. I think either COVID or, the prison sprinkler is going to get her. We'll see. But
Well, they put out a suicide watch, and they've put her in paper clothing and all of that because they suspect she's suicidal now.
Oh, geez.
Plus, she has COVID, so there are a couple.
Have we
different
confirmed she has
paths
COVID?
they could
Because
go.
somebody told me that's fake news. Because I saw news articles about it, but then somebody said she doesn't. So I don't know.
Oh yeah, I don't know. The last I heard, she did. We'll have to look into that.
Okay. Brian Frederick, $1.99. Jordan, can you clarify Biden's TPP stance? Stick with me, Brian. I'm getting to it. All right. So we got a lot to talk about, but I want to start with Jen. Like, what's today? July 10th. Is something going on at the end of July? Like, is there something happening in America at the end of July that I don't see a lot of discussion about in the media?
I don't know. What do you mean?
You know,
What's going?
the expanded $600 unemployment is expiring. The moratorium for evictions in many states expiring.
Yeah.
Pretty much, coronavirus is like wildfire right now. We are headed to, I think, 60,000 a day in cases. Every day is a new record high. You have a president. Let's talk Arizona, almost at capacity for hospitals. Texas, you had the governor, a right-wing nut, literally saying today that if people don't follow the mask order, because he finally made it an order for people to wear masks in public, we might have to do another lockdown. This is Texas, who reopened very quickly, which is why they're having such a mass increase. He's saying we might have another lockdown. This is a right-wing governor. Florida, which the Trump mini-me is running that, Ron DeSantis, they're almost at capacity, especially in South Florida. I mean, it is just out of control, the spread of coronavirus there. Meanwhile, Trump went to Florida today, but not for the coronavirus. The state is having massive coronavirus increases, but he went. I don't even know why he went. So Trump living in an alternate universe, just trying to pretend that coronavirus is not just dangerously expanding. We're over 130,000 deaths. The deaths have now uptick because we know positive cases, the death count usually lags behind the increase in positive cases. And all the while, as we're seeing this mass increase, Louisville, where we just left, now they're suddenly having slight upticks. New York, which is finally decreasing. Governor Cuomo came out today saying, as expect the numbers to go back up at some point. So basically you have this absolute disaster that the president of the United States is living in an alternate reality about. He's just saying, we're going to reopen schools. I'm threatening the schools if they don't reopen with pulling funding. Apparently it came out he has not been briefed or even spoken directly with Anthony Fauci in 2 months. He's going at Fauci on Twitter and in the media now. So all of this.
And Fauci all but said today that he is not allowed on TV anymore.
Right. All of this. By the way, 230 people watching, 150 likes. Let's get it going, baby. Press that like button on a Friday. I'll be live Sunday too, so we'll have double. Now, all of this, but again, 3 weeks. The only reason we're not currently in a Great Depression is because of that expanded unemployment, is because there's been temporary moratoriums for rent. Doesn't mean you're not going to owe the rent that you haven't paid these last few months. So there's going to be back pay in most places. And nothing's being done. Nothing. I want to play a clip. If you guys missed this interview from our road trip, short clip. This is just one example. There's probably worse examples than this. But this is just a young couple. I don't know how old they are, maybe late 20s, early 30s. Got a beautiful 1.5-year-old baby we met. Finally, after job searching after job searching, the husband, Josh, finally got a decent job. Coronavirus hits. I'll let him tell us. Coronavirus hits, and then laid off. So you got the mother's out of work, the father's out of the work, 1.5-year-old baby. They're already on welfare. They're on food stamps. Their rent is up in a month, or 3 weeks, and no job prospects. Let's see what they had to say.
And let me ask you, if you're both out of work right now, what are you doing for health care for you and the baby?
Welfare.
Like,
We had to apply for welfare. That's how we got our food stamps too, which isn't really like much. It's There's co-pays on it, which I thought there wasn't, and they're kind of pricey depending on what medicine you get. And luckily, we don't have any ongoing health issues, so that's good. But if we need something, it's going to be tough, which is very frustrating. And luckily, our son is really healthy right now, and I hope he stays that way. But we're just on welfare, and it sucks.
As a young mother, I'm assuming, obviously it's scary with a pandemic and all that, but this uncertainty with your husband getting laid off, with having a young baby, and fearful that you could bring it back, with the unemployment going away and having the Republicans being terrible, the Democrats pretending to be for the people, but basically, I mean, Republicans wouldn't have been able to pass the first bailout without the Democrats. I assume for you, this is all very unsettling.
Yeah, it is, and I keep thinking that, like, we're going to end up having to move in with a family member, or we're going to need someone else to move in with us, and I don't want to have to lose everything that we worked really hard for. We've been struggling for 5 years, and then we finally got everything together, and it just instantly went away, losing one income, and it's horrible. And we even blew through our savings. We had a lot, and it's all gone.
In these last few months.
Yeah. It's sad, because, like, I can't imagine how many other people are like us and even have it worse. And then, like, thinking that if this doesn't go away, then my son's going to have to grow up in it. It's all going to become normal, and no one's going to care about it, and it's scary.
So there you have it. I mean, that's just one story. Jen, I assume as a mother, you could sympathize with Jacqueline. And the thing is, I mean, in their case, they get a little relief. I just read that the Pennsylvania governor, Tom Wolf, has extended the moratorium on evictions till the end of August. But is anything really going to radically change by the end of August? And nobody's extending. I mean, I have it right here. They're talking about, you know, they're not going to, McConnell, we're not extending $600 unemployment benefit. If they extend unemployment, it's going to be far less than the extra $600 a month. You know, they're using the same old Republican, Republican talking points that disincentivizes people not to work. People can't work because businesses are closing down again. How can you find a job if the coronavirus cases are spiking and spiking and spiking? Meanwhile, McConnell, Trump signaling we're not going to extend unemployment. I don't know where the hell Nancy Pelosi is. Maybe she's in the vineyard or eating her gourmet ice cream. She should be in front of cameras right now as the Democratic leader, so-called leader, demanding the extension of these unemployments, talking about immediate checks of more than $1,200. Because unfortunately, this is not going away. This is only going to persist and get worse.
Yeah, 100%. It was heartbreaking, of course, being, there with this young couple with their baby. And they kind of just, they talked about the issues that they're going through, the financial problems that they're going through, how hard, he had worked to help them become financially secure. And then COVID came along and destroyed everything. And it was almost sadder, they didn't break down in tears or anything, talking about being on welfare and talking about the uncertainty of the future. They kind of said everything matter of factly, like, yeah, this is what we're dealing with. We have no idea what the future holds. We're both looking for jobs, and whoever finds one is going to take it, and the other one's going to stay home with the baby. And the fact that they said it all matter of factly, like, not that they haven't given up hope or anything like that, but this is just part of their life. Like, they don't expect better from the government right now. And these are people who fought for Bernie. In this apparently Mars, Pennsylvania is Trump country, and so these are two of very, very few leftist people We could tell where their apartment was because they had, Black Lives Matter sign in their window. So these are people who fought for better things, but seem to have kind of had to resign themselves to the fact that help probably isn't coming, and they're just going to have to make it through and figure it out.
And let me read some super chats before we keep going. Decolonize your life. $5. Hey, Jordan, I'm an activist in Michigan, Wolves Den. Our governor just made a fee associated with not wearing a mask. Finally, hope to see you again. Well, that's one of the few good things Gretchen Whitmer has done. I'm not a big fan of her, but that's a good thing that she's penalizing people for not wearing masks. I'm not done with Gretchen Whitmer, by the way. Stay tuned. I got some dirt on her. Daniel Barford, $2. Keep up the good work, guys. Why, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Andrew Mame, $5. Thanks for sharing your work. Thanks for supporting the work. I read that one already. Keep those super chats coming. By the way, thank you to everybody who supported our reporting trip. We raised a good amount of money to support the trip and cover the costs. And now we're going to refocus, I think, a little bit on building back our membership. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. But keep those super chats coming. And please, please, please keep pressing that like button. Thumbs up right under the live stream video. So the crazy thing is, and don't get me wrong, like CNN, these corporate outlets are covering in real time the increased case count, which, they should. Obviously, it's a public health epidemic. It's a disaster. An 11-year-old just died in Florida. I saw this before I went live. But the other disaster is coming. I mean, Donald Trump, honestly, at this point, the only thing I could wonder is if he's purposely trying to tank the election, because he was a brilliant political mind a racist political mind, but he really had the pulse of the country. He knew how to run. He knew how to take out Hillary. And right now he's doing every possible thing wrong. I mean, Joe Biden is not winning anything. Nobody is supporting Joe Biden for Joe Biden other than Wall Street and fossil fuckers and Big Pharma. Like, actual people are not like ready for Joe like they were ready for Hillary. They just, 133 people have died. We are in between a depression and a recession. I think catering more towards the depression, because the bottom line is this. Most of these states, the truth is, although I called it a capitalist death cult when these states started reopening, Florida, Arizona, Texas, these other, in a way, what choice did they have? They have not gotten direct money from the government. I was not for Pelosi's $1 trillion directly to states, cities, and towns, because in my experience, and you've seen it in Flint, a lot of times when money is earmarked for something and it goes to the state coffers, strangely it gets diverted to donors, real estate developers, foundations, and that stuff. But the bottom line is governments haven't gotten direct relief, so they were forced to kind of have reopen because they're not getting any relief. That $1,200 check that was sent is long gone. Not everybody has even gotten it. And again, the extended $600, Mnuchin, Trump, McConnell, they've said not happening. If we do anything, it's going to be smaller than that. Again, 3 weeks from now. Well, what are they going to decide to extend the unemployment on July 31st? Well, what happens August 1st? We've already seen, Jen, if you're lucky enough to get the extended unemployment benefits, it takes time. So if they change it from an extra $600 a month, are people going to have to reapply for the new amount? I mean, it just seems to me it's not being covered this way, but there is a cliff. And basically, people are dangling off of it. And basically, Washington is quiet.
Yeah, and I don't know what it's going to take. I think people have to put pressure on the politicians. I mean, the politicians are supposed to be taking care of their constituents, are supposed to be handling these things, especially those on the left. We should have politicians out there like Nancy Pelosi who are making sure that these things are in line and are pushing for and fighting for the people. But instead, they're hoping that the people just go back to sleep, that they don't realize that the real money is just going towards corporations and already wealthy people, and that the real everyday working class people out there are being completely forgotten. And it's horrifying. When you think about this on a large scale, it's horrifying. And then when you kind of zero in on stories like you just showed, it's devastating. These are not just numbers. These are people with lives and babies and who are just trying to make it in supposedly the greatest country on earth. Well, we see what the truth is about that.
And let me just show you Colin's latest about the greatest country on earth. United Corporations of America, the brand new graphic for Status Quo. Isn't that beautiful? The fireworks, the corporate logos. That is who has been making out like fucking bandits, excuse my French, swear jar, during this pandemic. And you want to know something? Unfortunately, it ain't just, it's not going to just be that fine couple. We'll just play a quick trip. Unfortunately, while we were doing this interview live, there was a microphone issue, but we were able to salvage it, so we posted this video. But we also interviewed, Jen, some waitresses in the Pittsburgh area that, frankly, I bet you their story is very common. Their restaurants very, very hastily tried to reopen. They did not have proper safe conditions. And frankly, even if a restaurant's trying to do the right thing, can you really have like surefire, proper conditions during a deadly pandemic that every single day the definition is changing? How long this can stay in the air? First it was an hour, now I'm hearing 2 days. So it's kind of like waitresses. We'll just listen to them so you could hear what three waitresses went through in Pittsburgh.
Like we didn't hear anything from our company. We didn't know, like how the renovations were going or how, I don't know, how much like money they were making, how takeout was doing, how everybody was keeping up. We were really in the dark. Servers figured we were going back to work, but we didn't know when, and every restaurant got to decide this for themselves. They were told the day that they were allowed to open, but they didn't, that didn't mean go. That didn't mean everyone opens on this night. And so we were in the dark this whole time. And then we were given a call, hey, do you want to come back to work? Are you ready? And I was like, yeah, if everything's good, are you telling me everything's good? You guys are ready? Everything's in place? And confidence, my managers exuded confidence. I spent 5 years with this company. I loved them. I wanted to go back to work. I missed my family. I missed my friends. And I trusted them, for sure. And when it came down to it, I knew they were putting me in an awful situation where I had to go in 3 hours before my first shift and hear about all the guidelines, spur of the moment, and make the decision whether or not I thought they were doing it well and if I could do it, plus 100 other things that were on my mind. I really came into it wanting to be proven otherwise, wanting to be shown that, yes, they, could have taken more time, but they were ready. But the vibe in the room was that they just decided to open because they could, and that they knew that they hadn't done it right, so they shoved a handful of us in a room and wanted us to feel like we didn't have a choice but to come back to work.
So yeah, we were open for takeout for about a month or so. About a month or so before we ended up opening for dine-in. So I think for pretty much the month of May, we were open for takeout.
So basically, this restaurant, like many other restaurants, called their workers. They were like, come to the safety meeting. We're reopening in 3 hours. So the restaurant wasn't giving much communication to the workers before that. Then they pack them in a room like sardines during a pandemic, by the way. Say, here's the safety protocols we're going to take. The restaurant workers we spoke to, told us, just looking at the restaurant, it was clear this was not socially distant enough. They didn't have real as foolproof as you could get in this kind of situation, safety measures, and 2 of them quit. And by the way, that restaurant, Soba, a Mexican burrito chain in Pittsburgh, when a worker recently was positive for coronavirus, they didn't send workers home and quarantine them. No, They didn't even tell their team, was this worker with you working on a shift? They didn't tell the workers, was this person on your shift? They said, well, we can't say who it is or any details for confidentiality. Well, if you're a waitress, don't you want to know how much exposure you have had to this person so that you could make the informed decision whether you should go back to work right now? So the bottom line is, restaurants like that restaurant in Pittsburgh, all over the country, some I have seen just on the road are way more responsible than others. Here in New York City, there's outdoor seating and this and that. But even in New York City, this outdoor seating, a lot of these tables are just on top of each other. Certainly not 6 feet, maybe not even 3 feet in some cases, because they're trying to pack as many tables as humanly possible because they want to make money, because they've lost so much money. In a way, it's understandable, even though dangerous. So when we spoke to those waitresses, the only thing I can think of is, if this is happening here, this is happening everywhere. Because either restaurant owners intentionally are saying, fuck it, we're going to just open and we'll do our best, but it is what it is. Well, hopefully nobody gets it. Or they're trying their best to have social distance and this and that, but they're not architectural experts in terms of social distancing. But I just thought to myself, when we were speaking with those three women, those three waitresses, this is probably going on in every state.
Yeah, I'm sure it's going on in every state in multiple restaurants. And how many people are brave enough to do what those women did and quit their jobs? Then there's the factor that, maybe a restaurant worker has children at home and mouths to feed. Maybe it's a single mom and she can't make that choice. And these restaurant owners, these wealthy restaurant owners, are putting that mother at risk, who really feels probably like she doesn't have a choice. I'm sure there are stories like that all over the place. No regard for the safety of their workers, for the safety of their customers. It's horrifying.
And honestly, this is the kind of thing that I don't want to defend irresponsible restaurant owners, because it is irresponsible to open very hastily in a slapdash fashion. But at the same time, most restaurants, the margin of lost revenue is very low. So the fact that they were, even if you closed for 3 weeks to a month, most restaurants would go under. So the government, through the lack of real relief, the PPP loan was a joke. I mean, even businesses that got it, it wasn't enough. It was working against itself, because in one way, you're telling people to stay home. But on the other end, you're giving the loan to businesses as long as they keep people on the payroll. Well, if you're keeping people on the payroll, but they can't work, you're just paying the employees, but how does that keep the business open? Because business owners have expenses. I'm just talking about my parents, for example, who own a small jewelry store. So they didn't even get the full loan. They got a small portion of the loan, but to comply, you have to give it to your workers. So they gave it to their workers, but that doesn't keep their business open. They got to pay the landlord and other expenses that every business has. So between PPP being a joke, between the $1,200 check being a joke, between these restaurant owners rushing to come back because they can't afford to be closed for even a few weeks. So obviously that's going to increase the case count, because there's just no way to safely do this. Meanwhile, Europe, again, Italy's case counts, I think recently there was no deaths reported after they had their immediate. Why? Because they just locked the fucking country down for a few weeks. That's what they did. Other European countries just had the government pay the payroll, right? So we could just have people home, because they looked at it as a health emergency first. So the best way to save the economy is to fix this, fix the health problem. If we lock down the country, I know you civil libertarians, how dare I say that, but if you lock down the country for a few weeks, sure, it sucks, but we didn't have one uniform lockdown. We had all of this, different strokes for different folks. And the proof's in the pudding. What's going on now? Let me see. I think I missed a super chat. Wendy Melly, $10 in the super chat. Yo, Jordan, Crystal Ball shouted you out on Rising today regarding your tweet on TPP. Why, thank you, Crystal. If only you'll have me on now. I'm not going to lie. We'd be happy to go on there. We definitely need to get on some other shows because honestly, real quick detour, Jen. But, I think Kyle Kalinske put it really well in one of his videos. This is not to crap on Crystal or Saga or their show, because I think their show's great. But the bottom line is they have a major built-in advantage that we don't, and that is they're the hill. So YouTube's algorithm works in a way, and YouTube has basically stated this in their policy, that corporate outlets, or whatever they called it, trusted authoritative news, which included CNN, Fox News, yes, Fox News and trusted and authoritative, basically is going to get more, it's going to get flooded into people's feeds instead of untrustworthy or non-authoritative, i.e. independent. So when you see channels like Crystal's taking off, and it's not to knock them because I like their channel, but when you see, I think they're like almost at 700,000 subscribers in 6 or 7 months. That does not happen for an independent outlet. We'll be lucky if we hit 700,000 subscribers at this rate in 20 years.
Oh my God.
On YouTube. Because the algorithm favors those platforms. So that's why it would be incredible to get on there more often. No pressure, Crystal. Because it's just invaluable. We'll get in front of so many eyeballs that just don't see us in their YouTube feed, don't know what Status Quo is. And we experienced that too on the road. We're going to cover Breonna Taylor and that, but we went there, none of them knew who we were, and we probably more than others have been covering Black Lives Matter before the George Floyd protests. So anyway, a little bit of a tangent, but thank you to Crystal for mentioning me. Would love to come on. So would Jen. So anyway, the bottom line is, we are facing an economic cliff. This could end up being another one of those debt ceiling standoffs where cable news has their little countdown clock every day closer to unemployment expiring. And at midnight on July 34th, they strike a deal. But that deal's not going to be good enough. My guess, maybe they do normal unemployment an extra $100, because that's what the Republicans are signaling. They don't want an extra $600 a week, because in reality, a lot of people are making more than they were making at work with this extra $600 a week. But I don't know what it was, but I think it was a University of Chicago or some institute in Chicago just did a study, and they found that people that were making more on unemployment, so the people right now that are making more on unemployment actually are looking for work more than people who are making less on unemployment. So it's kind of Republican dogma that, if you give them more unemployment, they're just not going to want to work. No, people want to get the hell out of the house and get back to work. So I really think even if they strike a deal, Jen, at the end of this month, maybe one more check to go out, but far reduced unemployment, probably not doing anything significant about extending the eviction moratorium, because the reality is one of the biggest lobbyists in America is the landlords and the real estate developers, and the politicians will only pause rent for so long. So I think we're hanging towards that cliff, and we'll try within the confines of safety and health to do more road trips like this. Until then, we'll just interview people via Skype. But frankly, these stories are many. All you got to do is dig, and I think a lot of people, it's just really striking to me that very few people are talking about the fact that we're on the verge of a Great Depression.
Well, I think that's probably by design. The media doesn't want to talk about it, doesn't want to put any pressure on the powers that be, and the masses will stay, uninformed, and that's exactly the way they want it, because they don't want people to realize what's happening and how bad it will probably get.
I agree. So moving on from one depressing thing to another. So Joe Biden came out yesterday. I'll give it to him. Pretty coherent speech. Didn't see that many fumbles.
It's amazing that you have to, like, that's a good thing. That's the bar to reach.
Right.
Is that there weren't that many symbols.
Right. And keep those super chats coming. We very much appreciate them. Well, let's see what Joe had to say.
And folks, it's not sufficient to build back. We have to build back better. That's what my plan is, to build back better. It's bold, it's practical, and it's focused on building an economy for the future, not for the past. And it responds to 5 truths laid out in this moment of crisis. The first is that we've seen in the course of this pandemic that we need to strengthen our industrial base as long-term sources of middle-class job creation. Let's use this opportunity to take bold investments in American industry and innovation so the future is made in America, all in America. I do not accept the defeatist view that forecasts that automation and globalization mean we can't keep well-paid jobs here in America and create more of them. I do not buy it for 1 second that the vitality of American manufacturing is a thing of the past. American manufacturing was with a functioning arsenal of democracy in World War II, has to be part of the engine of new prosperity in America now. So today, I'm releasing a blueprint I think the press has, how to create millions of good-paying union jobs, building products and technologies that we need now and will need in the future. And it starts with a pretty basic idea. When we spend taxpayers' money, when the federal government spends taxpayers' money, we should use it to buy American products and support American jobs. My plan would tighten the rules to make this a reality. And it goes further. During my first term alone, we'll invest $400 billion in purchasing products and materials our country needs to modernize our infrastructure, replenish our critical stockpiles, and enhance national security. That's how much the federal government will spend on buying products, the federal government. These funds will provide reliable, predictable demand for products made by American workers and supply chains like this one right here for the American industries. We'll purchase clean energy technologies, fight climate change, building materials, including steel products like those produced here, stockpiles of critical goods and equipment, and advanced technologies to modernize our government and enhance our national security. To ensure the future is made in America, we need to win not just the jobs of today, but we have to invest in what the jobs and industries of tomorrow are going to be. The Chinese are spending multiple billions of dollars trying to own the technology of the future, while we sit with our thumb in our ear. It means fighting unfair trade practices, curbing.
So, Jen, I have to apologize to America. I let that clip play a lot longer than I normally would. I'm very parched, and I had to walk to the kitchen. And first world problems, you know, a lot of people have it worse. At least I have water. But my refrigerator, it takes such a long time for water to come out. Like, you press the button, it literally takes maybe two minutes to fill it up. It's terrible. Anyway, I digress.
Very sad.
Anyway, sorry, America, that I played that clip so long. But I found it so interesting. That Joe Biden, I reject the claim that, you know, we can't have we can't have both. We can't have American manufacturing and, you know, a globalized workforce. Joe Biden talking about bringing back manufacturing to America, talking in a way like he's anti-globalist. That's very different than this Joe Biden. I don't know if you've ever seen this, Jen. Yes, because you sent me the clip.
I sent it to you.
Despite all I've heard, I quite frankly think that both the arguments for and against NAFTA are vastly overblown. As I look at this issue, and I do not pretend to be an expert on international trade matters, I see it in the end that 3, 5, 7, 10 years from now, we're going to look down at this issue, and in terms of the context in which it's being debated about creating jobs or losing jobs, this is essentially going to be a wash. I've been struck by the depths of the concerns expressed by those who oppose NAFTA on the one hand, and the apparent ease with which some of NAFTA's supporters have dismissed the concerns of those who oppose NAFTA. How, I wonder, could some Americans be so confident that NAFTA is the key to a bright future when the others are just as convinced that with NAFTA there is no future? Perhaps most disturbing to me has been the argument by some, and I emphasize some, not all, supporters of NAFTA, that their opponents are reacting out of ignorance or out of fear. After all, they seem to say, we know that a poll of our country's experts and elites would show overwhelming support for the principles of free trade. Sure.
I don't know if you heard this, Jen. This is 1993, so that would be, what's that? I'm not good at math. 17 years ago? Yeah. No.
I have no idea. I don't do math either.
That's 2003, 2013. So that's 27 years ago. Excuse me. Did you hear him say the part that, 7 to 10 years from now, this will be a wash? Later in the speech,
Right.
later in the speech, he says NAFTA will grow way more jobs than it took away. First of all, don't want to trigger anyone because I know a lot of people don't like it. Where was Bernie fucking Sanders with this? Why was Bernie Sanders not running ads playing that in Michigan, in other parts of the country? I mean, it's not, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Just Joe Biden's record on its own is worse than Hillary Clinton's because he's been in public office longer. Frankly, unless I've missed it, I've seen some of Trump's ads. We just saw that ad that he's running in Pennsylvania just showing Biden's mental decline and, just not making any sense when he speaks. But, right here is gold. It was gold for Bernie. It should be gold for Trump. They're not doing it. And Joe Biden, yes, Trump's terrible. Yes, he's number one. He is number one responsible for the coronavirus deaths. Buck stops with the president. He was slow to act, and now he's acting like it's over when it's at its height. So let's, just me knocking Biden, don't get it twisted. Trump is a dangerous man. Trump is responsible for a lot of death. But somebody's got to call out the gall of this man, Joe Biden, who, like the Iraq War, he wasn't some silent backbencher in the Senate. He was one of the leading proponents of pushing NAFTA. So, as Ohio and Pennsylvania and Michigan and Wisconsin, putting aside coronavirus for a second, as they decided the election last time, in many ways, in most electoral maps, they will decide the election again. And you have Joe Biden up there spewing bullshit about how he's some, buy an America guy, bring back American jobs, we're going to lead the future. This is the same bullshit I heard from Bill Clinton. This is the same bullshit Obama put out there. At least Bush didn't pretend to care about bringing jobs back. Joe Biden is in large part responsible for all those plants closing. He said later on in that speech that a plant in Delaware, they were going to open up more plants in Delaware because of NAFTA. Well, the very plants he cited that were open at the time closed in 2007 because of offshoring. So I don't know how this guy says all this with a straight face. Trump and his campaign aren't calling him on it, which I don't really get. If you look into the details of this Build America plan, he's going to do $700 billion, I guess, towards some tax incentives or direct government spending for the government for a potential Biden administration to buy American. So to buy masks and PPE equipment and other things manufactured in America, thus creating more manufacturing jobs. But I have a sneaking suspicion, Jen, and this is what I sent to Crystal the other morning, because snuck into this Wall Street Journal story is what I've been saying since the beginning. Joe Biden, if he becomes president, he will sign TPP while you're sleeping. He will sign it, the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Yeah, they'll change a sentence or two. Throw in some labor protections, environmental protections that, of course, will be watered down when it's passed. This is in the Wall Street Journal story. Hold on. Pacific. Mr. Trump's re-election campaign released a new television ad Thursday attacking Mr. Biden's support for trade deals such as the North American Free Trade Agreement and the Trans-Pacific Partnership. While President Trump... Hold on, let me find it. Oh, this is what happens. Pacific. Trans. Priority. Is this the same story? Hold on. Yeah. Hold on. Let me find it. Mr. Biden's trade. Okay. I'll find it because this is important. Hold on, folks. I don't know where it is. I'll update it when we post this video after the fact. But the key part that I sent to Crystal was in the Buy American plan, when Biden's advisors were talking to reporters about it, they said, well, we're not going to make trade deals a priority like the TPP. They won't be a priority for us, maybe later down the road, i.e., once the surface level numbers are better under a Biden administration, we're signing the TPP lickety-split. That's what he said. Don't take it from me. Take it from his advisors told reporters. So, to me, he's very clearly saying, when they say, oh, it's not going to be a priority for us, that means, but it's not out of the question either. So in one breath, what he's saying is, we need to buy American, we're going to bring back plants, and he's kind of basically copying Trump's 2016 mantra of, reestablishing American manufacturing, turning around this American globalization, while at the same time, his team is saying, well, TPP, it's not a priority, but might happen down the road.
Audience, calm down. They're saying, let Jen speak. No, he has the articles on his computer, so that's why he goes through them. Don't worry. I definitely have a voice, so that's why, because he's going through the articles. But I think, one thing that I want to point out is that it's so Hillary-esque, it's so liberal-esque to even the Build Back Better plan. What does that even mean? It's word salad. It means nothing. It inspires no one. And then when you actually go through it, and as Jordan's done, you go back through his stances in the past and the things he's actually done in the past, in the end, it really means nothing. And maybe it sounds good. Okay, let's refocus on American manufacturing and giving American workers a leg up. Let's bring back what's been lost in this country. But it's so meaningless, it's so uninspiring, and it's so against his history. You have to really put aside Joe Biden's history and stances in the past to really even believe him and think that this is actually going to lead to change. Like, as soon as I saw the what is it even called? The Build Back Better plan. I mean, it sounds like it's like as convincing as Stronger Together, or what's Melania's silly I don't even remember her silly like social media phrase that is her initiative. It's like these politicians, they don't actually lead to change or do anything substantial that leads to change. They just come up with fancy phrases, and like Joe Biden, have all the media run this as if it's good, and plant the seed that, oh, Joe Biden's going to do this and it's going to be so different from what Trump is doing, and finally things are going to get better. But there's nothing really there for the people. It's not going to lead to real change because Joe Biden doesn't have any convictions.
Holy shit, Jen.
What?
I think I've just unearthed something interesting.
What?
So, to the 370 people watching, you know how I was spending about 5 minutes trying to find the thing that I sent to Crystal, that she gave me a shout out, that the advisor in this Wall Street Journal article had said, well, let me show you, because I found it on Sagar posted it on his Twitter, what I sent him. Hold on. So this is the part that I sent to Crystal from the Wall Street Journal article. The advisor also said Mr. Biden won't make a priority of entering new free trade agreements or reviving the 12-nation Trans-Pacific Partnership that President Obama negotiated at the end of his term and that Mr. Trump pulled out of at the beginning of his. Mr. Biden won't consider, quote, entering new trade deals before the work is done at home to make investments in American job creation. So, Jen, how I read that is he won't consider entering new trade deals before the work is done at home to make investments in American job creation. That doesn't fucking mean anything. Basically what that means is, yeah, when the surface level numbers are good again, we'll get back to those free trade agreements, including the TPP. Right there, it says, won't make it a priority of entering trade deals like the TPP. He's not ruling it out, which, like I said during the campaign when he was pretending that as constituted he was not for the TPP, he's absolutely for the TPP. He was trying to push Hillary Clinton in 2016 not to abandon it and to stick with it. Well, isn't it interesting, Jen? This 2 paragraphs now gone from the story in the Wall Street Journal. I was trying to find it because I'm the one who spotted it and sent it to Crystal. It's been taken out of the story. Not that I can see. So I'm gonna say there's 2 options. 2 options here. Because, websites, they call it stealth editing. So you'll publish a piece and then edit after the fact. Sometimes they change the headline. Sometimes they, change a word here or there. But to literally remove 2 paragraphs, what my guess is, Jen? Rising has become pretty influential, wouldn't you say? Yeah. Crystal is very influential. I'd say it's, other than the Young Turks, one of the more influential platforms for progressives. All of a sudden, after Crystal and Sagar mentioned that the part about TPP in that Wall Street Journal article, it's not in the article anymore. So I'm going to take it from here. We know that Joe Biden's campaign has gotten the New York Times to edit damaging things out of their pieces. In the New York Times case, damaging things about his history making women uncomfortable. I don't have any proof, but what I do know is yesterday when this article came out, those 2 paragraphs were in there, as Sagar tweeted, and now they're not. And by the way, this very clearly, I said at the time, no corporate journalists are going to care about this because they're all out of touch and think the TPP is wonderful. But this right here is basically the signal. Yeah, it's not a priority, but once job creation's back to snuff, we'll get back into free trade deals like the TPP. And now it's gone. So you tell me, Why would they take those two paragraphs out if not for seeing it mentioned on Rising and not want any spotlight on the fact that Joe Biden's actually totally for TPP? I will say this. Biden does have smart people around him. They're not the same idiots running Hillary Clinton's campaign. One of them is Obama staffer. Jennifer Dillon O'Malley is the campaign manager, and she was with Obama on his successful re-election. So my guess is they asked the editor to remove that. And that's significant. So I will send that to Rising. Hopefully they'll have me on as a guest to talk about it. I mean, it's not Watergate, but it is pretty significant that, like, why would you take just that part out of the story after this big show with almost 700,000 subscribers calls you out for really being for the TPP? It just shows Joe Biden. You want to call him Sleepy Joe? I call him Slippery Joe. Now.
Well, and it's not surprising that this has been edited out. We've seen this happen before. And it's the fact that the media tries to portray it, or the mainstream media tries to portray itself as objective and truth tellers, and they're totally, like, journalists have the highest ethics in the land. But when it really comes down to it, these mainstream journalists have incredibly cushy relationships with the top politicians and their aides. Oh, Jordan, that was that ridiculous article we read on the road trip where it was about Liz Smith, that's her name, right? Liz Smith, Buttigieg's chick.
I don't appreciate the terminology chick, but go on.
I'll say what I want. Buttigieg's, what was she, the campaign manager or the press person?
She was his communications, person. Yeah.
So the comms person. And she had such incredibly close relationships with so much of the media that basically she would be able to call them or write them or whatever. And the reason that Buttigieg did so well, I mean, as well as he did, and got such a spotlight, is because of her relationship with the media. So it's not like they're access journalists. They're not ethical. They're not objective. They are in the bag for whoever they've chosen to be in the bag for. So seeing this edited, which turns out to be in favor of, or like kind of hiding away something that the Joe Biden team doesn't want to be seen, is not a surprise at all. It's disgusting, and nobody else will probably even talk about it or take the time to notice it, or if they do, they'll just say, oh, it's just for the common good. Like, we have to get Joe Biden elected, so it's all for the common good. These media people have just become extra campaign arms. It's horrifying and disgusting. And it really makes me so mad, because I grew up wanting to be a journalist and thinking, oh, I'd love to work for the New York Times someday, or the Washington Post. Like, I want to be the next Woodward and Bernstein. But when it comes down to it, especially today, no, I don't want to be anything like those people. Those people aren't ethical, good journalists. They simply regurgitate campaign talking points, and from the WikiLeaks drops, we know that they actively worked, would run pieces by the Hillary campaign in 2016. So here we go. It continues today. Disgusting.
I'm going to save my other two Biden things for Sunday, because I want to move on. But boy, if you haven't seen the Biden interview with Adi Barkan, who is the Medicare for All activist with debilitating ALS. He supported he supported Elizabeth Warren, but he's basically been for both. Dying in the wheelchair, barely able to speak. If you haven't seen this video, because I'm going to cover it on Sunday, it's just disgusting. The way Biden, to me, just cringeworthy, the way Biden spoke to a man in a wheelchair who's been fighting for his life for 4 years about the sanctity of preserving people's choice to private health care. So we're going to talk about that Sunday. I'd like to move on to something close to my heart. Thank you, Vicky Blair, $20. This is for Eagle Eye Jordan. Keep it up. Appreciate it. Brian Frederick, $1.99. The corporate media has a financial stake in TPP. Certainly does. I've covered it in the past. Before I move on, I just want to point out, Jen, the ugly truth, because we always keep it real here. Listen, we were on a roll. We were almost at 2,000 members before coronavirus hit. Now we're down about 200. We've lost about 200 members, unfortunately, which totally get it, because people have had to cancel, people losing their jobs, having to tighten their belt, all that. So we've lost a lot of members. So, we've had to do different things, Jen. We're now at 1,735. We've had to reignite the GoFundMe, which we're less than $10,000 from our ultimate goal. So we kind of took a pause from really pushing our membership, because you don't really want to push, 7 things at once. After this trip, which honestly, we can't take trips like this on a sustainable basis if we don't have sustainable revenue. So I've been seeing like these new media companies starting, all based on paid membership, so kind of, smart model. And one is like a blog, and they're signing new members, this and that. So I thought to myself, you know what? It's going to be tough. A lot of people just aren't comfortable with putting out any more money right now, even if they haven't lost their jobs. But we got to start promoting membership again, because honestly, we got to grow. We can't just take a break from growing, or we're never going to be able to grow at the pace to achieve our goals, which is to consistently be on the road, giving the microphone back to the people. So I again ask 370 people watching right now, many of you are members, many of you are not. If you support our journalism, and we're not done showing you some of the work we just did in the field, if you support this in the field journalism, really the best way to help us, and it's not charity, the best way to build this with us is through membership. I'll give you a quick peek. If you haven't seen this new promo, this is a short promo that I think shows it really well, what we've been doing. We go out in the field. We've been all over this country in the last 2 years.
Standing Rock. I've been with you. I've been with you since Standing Rock.
Wow, you got me on right now. We're doing it, baby. We're going to South Bend. It's time you show the real Mayor Pete.
100 days, they tore down 1,000 houses in 100 days.
Thank you, whether it's Standing Rock or Flint or everything else you do. You guys, it's not even like watching news. It's just watching truth,
It's not me and you, Jordan. It's the ruling class. It's David Koch. It's the Walton family, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk. It's them, not us, that benefit from these illegal offensive wars.
Come on over here. Whoa!
We're here at the Bellagio in Las Vegas, and you are going to see live the actual caucus process. We are here.
We go out in the field, and we give the microphone back to the people.
Yo! Cool! I know who you are, yo!
How you doing, man?
You the man, yo!
The beautiful thing about that was made by a viewer. And it's like, I didn't even have an edit. I'm very anal. And like when Colin's editing stuff and stuff like that, like I'm constantly like, all right, can you do this? Can you do that? And like revisions. A viewer did this unsolicited. His name's Doug. And it was just perfect. We gotta hit him back up for other stuff. And we will pay. So yeah, I don't know if I said it as well as I should, Jen, but I hope that, we have a double whammy of an issue here. Number one, we're being suppressed. So it's hard to grow your membership if you're not growing eyeballs. So we're doing everything we can to grow eyeballs, but it's just extremely hard when the gatekeeper, which is YouTube, is throttling your channel. But we're really hoping that, it might not be as quick and as great of membership growth as during the campaign, but we really hope we can start building this membership growth again, because it's the only way in the long term we could hire other reporters, fund the reporting in the field when it's safe to do it. What am I missing?
So I think one of the things that I want to point out is that we, during that promo, like the clips that you see from that promo, we were out on the campaign trail and, back before Corona, and there were nights where we would grow between 100 and 150 members, and we were on a streak. People were finally seeing our content. We were growing like crazy. People wanted to be members. because it's not just us like, hey, please become a member. Like we're begging you to help us out. No, becoming a member is about you guys. And there's so much bonus content you get, so much behind the scenes info and pictures and videos and member calls, which are so fun. But so we were growing like crazy because people saw the value, people saw that we were doing reporting nobody else was. Then COVID hit and people's economic anxieties hit and people lost their jobs and people got scared and worried, and people really had to take a look at the things that they were spending money on. And we get emails all the time from people saying, I am so sorry. I love what you're doing, but with COVID, I just can't keep up my membership right now. I want to join as soon as I can. Again, I just can't right now. And people are legitimately sad that they're not able to afford it. And so I think that, all that is to say that people get so excited about becoming members of Status Quo because we offer things that nobody else does. I mean, sure, you can join. There are other Patreons out there from other creators that you can join, or other memberships from other independent people that you can join. But nobody truly offers what we do, which is basically direct access to us, direct ways to ask us questions, to get to know us in these member calls, funny behind the scenes videos, important and impactful behind the scenes videos, what we really think about certain things that we don't necessarily share with everybody. So the value is there and the excitement is there and people love being a part of Status Quo. But COVID has devastated people in so many different ways. So we really what we're saying is, if you can, please become a member for as low as $5 a month, statusquo.com/join. So if that's in your budget, maybe you're a little more certain about your situation right now than you were to begin with. Maybe you used to be a member and you want to re-up. Maybe you're brand new to this channel, you didn't even know we had a membership. But if it's possible at all for you to spend the 16 cents a day, you get some incredible stuff. You get to be part of the community, and you fund our ongoing reporting and you help sustain us. And I think it's important. So there are lots of people out there who can't afford this right now, who just can't, and really, really wish that they could. We aren't saying spend money you don't have, but if you do have the money, or maybe you have the ability, maybe you are lucky and you have the ability to sponsor 1 or 2 or 10 memberships for other people who want to be members but can't. We have that too. Email us at info@statusquo.com and you can sponsor other people. But the fact is, if Status Quo is to keep going, membership is our model. Membership is how we report.
Jen, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but welcome new Status Quo member Angeline. Taking the sales pitch well. Thank you, Angeline, for getting us started. We are now at 1,736. Sorry to interrupt. Go back.
Yeah, so Angeline, you are amazing. That's exactly what we're talking about. Get into the Status Quo spirit. It's not just about another thing to join. You have maybe you're a member of 3 different Patreons or whatever. This is about in-field reporting, giving the microphone back to the people. So we had our Flint story that came out in Vice a couple of months ago. That's because of you guys. That's because of our members. We couldn't have done that when you switched. I don't think they can hear me. That's because of our members. You are funding real investigations. You are funding real change. So please, you can even sign up your spouse or your girlfriend or your boyfriend or your cat or your dog. Maybe you already have a membership. Sign up Fido. Every membership helps. The more members we have, the more chances we have to get progressive investors as well. So those numbers really matter. Plus, you get so much cool stuff, behind the scenes stuff, direct access to us. So it's great. It's just 16 cents a day. So if you can at all afford it, please do statusquo.com/join.
Thank you to Angeline. Keep it coming. Sign up. We'll talk more on Sunday as well about trying to grow our membership. Keep going. Decolonize. I'm a member now, but I haven't been able to find the content. Where is it? Go to members content. So when you go to Status Quo's website, statusquo.com, just click on the member content section. If you have any issues, you can email us at info@statusquo.com and we'll help you. There you'll see our behind the scenes videos. Jen was uploading a couple things on the road, some behind the scenes videos that we did just for members. I think one of them was me possibly not sober, singing Fiddler on the Roof. So that will be a crowd favorite, I think. But if you're having any issues, email info@statusquo.com. Also, somebody said, progressive AF, brah, I'm broke. We get it. If you don't even have the $5, it's cool. Nobody's shaming anybody here. It's for people that do have it. And you want to know something? Frankly, and this is Jordan, just keep it real. Some of you do have it, but are choosing to the iced coffees for $4.50 a day, or am I talking about myself? If you do have the funding, just think about, what do you spend $5 on a month? Is it more important than funding our field reporting? I mean, that's the basic question. Because, for example, I want to use an example here. And thank you so much, Gino Fast, $99.99.
Thank you.
Sharing COVID cookie money from Michigan. I lost $300 of my paycheck and got $600. Here's some extra support. So the federal, that is an indirect contribution for the federal government to us. Thank you, Gino Fast. Really appreciate your support, and I hope to have your cookies soon. The bottom line is this, folks. It's pretty remarkable in 2 years. With the suppression we've been dealing with on YouTube, when I explain the suppression, just think about it this way. We interviewed Breonna Taylor's aunt, Bianca. Powerful, wonderful woman. Interview was powerful. We got 66 views in an hour? Something insanely low.
It was ridiculous.
That's all because YouTube's not even sending the videos into our own subscribers' feeds, let alone people who are not subscribers. And by the way, we were over and more. It's just we've lost a lot of members because of coronavirus. It's really a tribute to you and just to the demand for this. We hope to keep growing. So think about it. If it's within your budget, we really, really need your help to keep growing.
Tim asks, how do I upgrade my membership? Great question. If Tim or anyone else wants to upgrade their membership, you just go to statusquo.com/account and you will see the membership options there.
Want to move on finally today. We don't want to go without... we just got another one. Welcome, new member, Andrew Cooper. Woohoo! Thank you, Andrew.
Hooray,
Welcome to the party. 1,737 members, so 2 new members. Can I get to 1,740? Keep going. So before we go, Jen, I think we
have a super chat.
You go ahead and read that one.
Okay, Jason Milton, $5 in the super chat. And I think, Jason, you said we maybe missed one of yours before. I do apologize. You notice the Republicans are starting to turn away from Trump while Mitch is now talking about a second stimulus check. You think the tide is turning? No.
I think that Mitch McConnell is talking about a second stimulus check because he's smart enough to know that if Trump goes down, the Republican Senate is also going down. So even if Trump is going to go down, Mitch McConnell wants to do whatever he can to preserve him as the Senate majority speaker. I think he knows he's going to beat that empty glass of water, Amy McGrath, who, by the way, Breonna Taylor's aunt told us, has not reached out to the Taylor family. Could you imagine that? She's running to be the Democratic nominee in Kentucky. She becomes the Democratic nominee in Kentucky by a small number. Charles Booker ran a great campaign. Still hasn't reached out to them. Actually, somebody at the Vigil site told us Amy McGrath drove by the memorial site that all the protesters hang out at during the day, just honked. Didn't even get out the car to talk to these protesters. So McConnell talking about a second stimulus check doesn't surprise me. He wants to act like the Republicans are doing something so they don't lose the Senate. I think Trump is also for the second stimulus check. I don't even know if it will be $1,200. It might be less than that. But let me be very clear about something. And this is not, most people are not saying this, but I'm saying it. And mark it down that I said it. I do not think it's a foregone conclusion that Trump's going to lose the election. I think people are making a big mistake just looking at the polls now. And they're bad for Trump. No doubt about it. They're bad for Trump. But it's still 5 months to go. Again, Trump's a vile man, but he's a very, very brilliant politician. He's a snake oil salesman, one hell of a snake oil salesman. Biden is literally propped up by God knows what they're feeding him in medication, and now teleprompters, so he doesn't, make a big mess. Welcome, new Status Quo member Malika. Woohoo!
Yeah.
Anat's not here, so I have to sing. Anat is always singing when we get a new member and chanting. My lovely woman. 1,738 members. So I don't think it's out of the question. I think Trump could come back. I think the polls were wrong in 2016. I don't think they would be wrong by this amount in terms of like 10 to 13 points down. But I do think there still is that hidden Trump supporter that probably doesn't tell pollsters the right thing. And there's still a chance for Biden to fuck up his vice presidential pick. And there's still a chance for Biden to just totally detonate himself during debates. So I don't think it's over. So when you say, could that be the...
I think it's a giant mistake to say it's over or to assume that Biden's going to win. We haven't had any debates. Trump is just getting started on his anti-Biden ads, which I think are going to get progressively more and more yikes-worthy. And I think polls are, in general, untrustworthy. Okay. Often, because of how they're done, but also because a lot of people just look to the national polls and not to the swing state polls. And we know what polling told us in 2016 and what actually happened. So I think it's a giant mistake to assume Biden's going to win.
Jen, I'm sorry. I was going to save this for Sunday, but now I got to play it today. This is another reason I think do not count out Trump. This was Biden the other day. Again, this is, I'm not trying to mock the man, but you can't hide it. You can't hide this stuff either. Let's take a look.
Lonnie knows I believe this every fiber of my being. We're posed. What I propose is it can be done. I think we're in a position to really make it happen. And my team and your team are already working closely together to light up the path forward here. Critical laws like the PRO Act to strengthen collective bargaining. On politics like prevailing and look, I guess I'm taking too much time, but Lonnie knows I believe this every fiber of my being. We're posed. What I propose is it can be done. I think we're in a position to really make it happen. And my team and your team are already working closely together to light up the path forward here. Critical laws like the PRO Act to strengthen collective bargaining. On politics like prevailing and look, I guess I'm taking too much time, but Lonnie knows I believe this every fiber of my being. We're posed.
First of all, Jen, did you see that clip?
No.
Oh, damn. Yeah, we got to talk to Colin about making sure you can see this stuff.
Yeah.
First of all, to the audience, I don't know who Lonnie is. He started, Lonnie, no. Is he talking to, is Lonnie asking him a question? Like, that was a small clip. But he starts with Lonnie, no. Then he says pose instead of propose. And again, I'm not trying to mock the man. He's clearly got something going on. But in more civilized parts of society, you know what they call this, Jen? Elder abuse.
Yes.
This guy, when you put a teleprompter in front of him in a certain part of the day, maybe he could go for, 15, 20 minutes. I just sent it to you, Jen, if you want to watch it. But if you don't put a teleprompter in front of him, if he's got to be on his feet, if it's maybe later in the day, this is going to happen. And I got news for you folks. Yes, there's coronavirus going on. Yes, people are economically hurting, but the American people are also very, very simple creatures. And as much as they hate Trump, if they see somebody that looks like he's ready for a 7-year nap, it's going to depress the vote, including among young people, including among black people, Latinos who Biden isn't very strong on. So if this guy does that on the debate stage, or does that at rallies, or does that at speeches, I mean, I guess the media could ignore it because they've been basically ignoring it thus far. But I don't think the rest of the voters will ignore it. So that's why we've been showing it to you for a year, not to play games and to mock him, but because it's a massive story when, at the time, a major candidate is clearly falling apart cognitively. And now the Democratic nominee, frankly, might have early onset something. Not diagnosing here, we're not doctors. But clearly, this is not a stutter. You know, they wanted to put out this is a stuttering problem. I mean, when he was vice president, he wasn't stuttering. When he was a senator, he wasn't stuttering. A lot of people have a childhood stutter, and as adults, it smooths out. This is losing your train of thought. This is memory loss. This is just verbal inability to articulate. So, you know, I don't know. There's some theories out there that he's trying to get Michelle Obama. If he does that, it's over.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, it's not looking good. It's not looking good. And I just want to say, welcome, new Status Quo member, Isaac. Woohoo!
Isaac, thank you.
I don't know if I pronounced it right. Is it Isaac or Isaac? I think it's spelled like Isaac. So anyway, but thank you for joining us as a member. We now are 4 new members today, 1,739. Let me put your name. Welcome, Isaac. All right, real quick, for those of you who didn't see this on the road trip, here's just a short part of my interview with Breonna Taylor's aunt, Bianca. Obviously, Breonna Taylor, we're now, I believe, at 118 days since she was murdered in Louisville by Louisville police. She was in bed sleeping with her boyfriend when Louisville police came in with a no-knock warrant, barged into her apartment, and shot her 8 times. Here's just a short part of my interview with Bianca.
This is mind-blowing that this goes on in the city of Louisville, especially to a young woman who was doing everything right. She worked 2 jobs. She owns her, she had her own house, her own car, you know what I mean? And she didn't get an opportunity to start a family. She didn't get an opportunity to better herself, you know, and level herself up. Like, it's heartbreaking, you know, and we miss her every day.
And not only that, but while this happened, COVID was beginning to break out.
Yes,
she was an EMT worker treating patients.
Treating patients. Yeah, saving lives. Every day. Get up. Not from 1 job, but 2. You know what I mean? So it is, like, we devastated. Like, I don't like, and that's an understatement. It's devastation. It's a nightmare. You know, some days we feel like we're in a twilight zone, and we just want to know, like, why are they doing this to us? Like, why did they do this to her? Like, why do we have to go through this? This isn't right. You know what I mean? Yeah. So we just want answers. We want justice. And from day one, like I said, if we're not going to stop until these people are held accountable.
So that was Bianca. The full 24-minute interview is up. Definitely go watch it, like it, share it. Even if you've seen it, go share it, because YouTube, for whatever reason, that 24-minute interview we did was suppressed way more than other videos. Like I said, in the first hour, it had like 66 views, which is not only just terrible for Status Quo, it's terrible for a family. Like, this needs to get out. So the fact that YouTube is even fucking with us on content like this is really outrageous. But anyway, to me, the main takeaway I took from that interview, you know, I think when you see these stories from a distance, you know, obviously the injustice, the police terrorism, but you forget that in a lot of cases, you know, there's a disbelief factor. Like, her family still can't believe this happened. They're still in shock. She's still in shock. She even said, like, I still can't get used to just using her name in past tense. She said at one point, this feels like the Twilight Zone. And, audio just came out showing that Kenneth Walker, her boyfriend, who shot back at police, was obviously questioned. He basically said, yeah, they heard people at the door shouting, but they couldn't make out. They weren't saying police, police. And of course the police are saying we identified ourselves as police. But if it's 12:30 in the middle of the night and you're sleeping and you wake up and you hear from a distance people at your door, you're not going to make out what they're saying. If you just hear people shouting, you're going to think you're either being robbed or something worse. So the audio that came out recently shows that the police the police apparently said something, but Kenneth and Breonna did not hear them say police.
Well, that was according to the police days later with their lawyers. So of course they're going to say they announced themselves.
Right. Kenneth, let me see what he said. Hold on. In the interview with Louisville Police Sergeant John Mattingly, who led the late-night raid in March, the investigator questioning Mattingly describes a raid involving at least 7 officers and a battering ram as the most passive way in, and says Mattingly rightfully returned fire after Taylor's boyfriend, Kenneth Walker, fired a shot. In his interview, Mattingly insists officers knocked and announced themselves when they arrived after midnight on March 13th. So right there, obviously, is total bullshit. You're calling it going in after midnight to people that are sleeping with a battering ram, a passive way of approaching someone? Again, this is a woman who was an EMT. This is a woman without a criminal record. Why were you going in the middle of the night in the first place? There's no reason to go in there in the middle of the night. How do you say this was the most passive way to go in? Oh yeah, just going in with multiple police officers in the middle of the night with a battering ram? If that's passive, I don't want to know what's aggressive. I mean, that's just insane. Let me find. Walker was interviewed just hours after the shooting. He waived his rights to an attorney and emotionally recalled the chaotic night, saying he shot once at what he believed was an intruder before officers opened fire. Days later, 27-year-old was indicted for attempted murder, which is also outrageous. Let's see. Hold on. At 12:40 a.m. on March 13th, police arrived at St. Anthony Gardens, the leafy apartment complex where Taylor lived. Documents show police suspected she was stashing drugs for a friend allegedly involved in a narcotics ring. She had no history or criminal convictions. Again, if they suspected that, okay. I don't know why they suspected that, but why are you going in the middle of the night with multiple police officers at a battering ram? So this shows you, do you think they would have done that in Lexington, Kentucky? Do you think they would have done that in a nicer part of Louisville? Maybe a different skin color? I don't think so. So the racism is systemic just in the approach, just in the thinking of we need to come with force, with a battering ram, no-knock warrant, because this might be a violent person. This person is more threatening than other people.
Does that article go into what Kenneth reported the police officer said to him, like the CNN article does?
I don't know if you want to pull up the CNN one.
Let me find it because I sent it to you earlier. Let's see. Okay. I'll send it to you again. And then just search for unfortunate.
When he surrendered to police, Walker said an officer asked him if he had been hit. When he said no, Walker told investigators the officer responded, "That's unfortunate." Wow. So this is audio that was recently unearthed. So basically, Jen, in in my view, and this is why I was so like outraged when we interviewed. I don't know if people saw the interview we did with the local, the president of the city council there. When I was like, "What exactly are they investigating?" And he said, "Well, we don't know what happened." Yeah, I think we know what happened. I think they racially profiled a black girl. They thought they had to go in commando style. She had no criminal record. Her boyfriend had no criminal record. They came in the middle of the night. Okay, even if they did say, police, open up. Well, how do you know how far the bedroom is from the door? How do you know they're going to hear you? How do you know how do you know how many people are in the apartment that night? You don't know any of these things. And from everything we've seen, they didn't hear them. So it's just, from the start, there's a racial aspect to this that can't be denied, because this would not happen in a middle-class white neighborhood or an upper middle-class white neighborhood. And frankly, I don't really know what they're investigating at this point. I mean, it's a pretty open and shut case. She wasn't found to be doing anything wrong. And frankly, they could chalk it up to, oh, it's a tragedy that this happened. No, it's not a tragedy. It was a complete, frankly, should be an illegal police operation that took a life, and somebody's got to pay for that. And from what we've seen, and from what Bianca told us, the family hasn't been getting answers. And there's also, according to the family, they fear part of the operation was an effort to gentrify that block and to tear down a lot of the buildings in that block. So it's just outrageous. And the most infuriating aspect of this was a woman who at the time was risking her life as an EMT in hospitals to save people with coronavirus. So, not to say we shouldn't have heard George Floyd's name, but unfortunately, because there hasn't been video in this case, it hasn't taken on the national media spotlight like George Floyd's name. In a positive note, a reporter with the New York Times, I think, just signed with Hulu to do a documentary series on Breonna's murder and life. So at least she's getting some more attention. But we're definitely gonna stay on this because it's outrageous. And I want to play another clip because these things don't happen in a vacuum. This happened in Louisville, Kentucky. Old Confederacy, segregation, and really, really thick racism still going on. And frankly, from what we've seen, a predominantly white police force that are just giddy about fucking with black people. Let's show part of an interview we did with one of the leaders of Black Lives Matter there, Chanel Helm.
And we're just looking at like this disdain, like a complete gross disdain over black bodies, period. And I think that's why this moment is a lot different than any other moments, because you are watching what took place during coronavirus, talking about essential workers, but then you put them on a hierarchy. So if you're a doctor, you're here, you're doing government officials. But if you work at Family Dollar, the grocery store, you're down here, and there's a lot of us. And it's a lot more down that way, and they were mostly black and brown. And so now there's this compassion around, like, what is really taking place and really understanding the racism. I think that's what people are seeing in the Breonna Taylor case, but that's what's fueling them to not even give a fuck, right? They don't give a fuck that they don't have to put all that information on an incident report because they have that bargaining agreement that can support them to hire them in either this position, another position, or another police force. And so that's what we've been seeing. The police officers that attacked me are actually lieutenants with this police force. And 6 months later, after they attacked me, they went on to kill a man with his handcuffed behind his back 12 times.
And what did they do to you?
Oh, just toss me around on the ground, while looking for help, just anything that they want to. And it was like, you need to assault people just to get your message through. And that's a problem. If we're talking about violence, we have to include, and that's one of our number one demands. If we're talking about violence, we're talking about gun violence, we have to include police terrorism in that violence, because it's ultimately like the key. They get funding based on the work that they do. The work that they do is to target black and brown bodies in this country. And so if we want that money to shift, if we want the investment into black lives, into brown communities, we have got to divest from one of the most money-making pieces of our government, and it is public safety underneath the police.
Mm-hmm.
based on the work that they do. The work that
So that was Chanel Helm, who's been organizing and leading Black Lives Matter on the ground there. I saw somebody say, Jordan, this kind of stuff happens in all poor neighborhoods. Yes and no. There's a lot of poor white neighborhoods. Police don't do what they do to black people. No disrespect to my poor white friends, but there's a different thing going on in black and brown communities.
Yeah, that's class reductionism.
Yes. Thank you, Seth Peterson, consistent status quo hero. $30 in the super chat. Anything short of a mass movement general strike accomplishes nothing. Our lives in the hands of psychopath, aka the oligarchy, who control the puppets. Status quo, your reporting is much needed. The suppression is maddening. Seth, frankly, your continued support helps us in a great way. So don't think we're taking it for granted. Every time you support us, it makes a big difference. And Jen, all we can do is keep on going, Unfortunately, we haven't reinvented the wheel yet to figure out a different platform for YouTube. I know some people are trying to figure out different platforms than YouTube, but it is infuriating because, frankly, when you have 84,000 subscribers, you should be going live to more than the current live viewing we have. When you have 84,000 subscribers, we're posting videos earlier that are getting like 500 views. There's just no rhyme or reason. It's like YouTube's algorithm lifts and gives you a break for a while, and then it tightens its claws again and throttles you. And it's frustrating, but we're just going to keep going. And the support we got on this trip, that's what really I think is wonderful. And I felt this way when I was at TYT, Jen, but sometimes it's not, the story isn't only told by the amount of views. Because a lot of times, even videos that get a shit ton of views, people don't actually watch the whole thing, or people kind of skim and watch a few minutes. It's like this ADHD generation. Often I will look at, you actually think I'm reading the comments for my ego, for people to praise me. That's not why I read sometimes. But often I read the comments to just see, is there demand for this? Do people actually appreciate this? Do people like these kind of stories we're telling? Because if you don't listen to your audience and you don't know what people like and what people don't like, then you're just kind of throwing gum against the wall. We're not going to just cater to the audience. We're also going to do what we think we should be covering. But watching the comments under these videos, particularly for this road trip, it's just overwhelmingly positive. People want more of it. I just got a message from somebody, Jordan, I love what you're doing, blah, 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 but I think you need better representation on the West Coast. Yeah, if you could, whoever wrote that, if you could sponsor a reporter on the West Coast for, conservative, put it at, so that they can eat, 50, 60 grand a year, great. That would be wonderful. But we can't invent the money. You know how many times we would like to hire a whole stable of reporters, but all we could do is pay what we have. But the comments have been amazing, and when we're on the road, we see how much people appreciate it, because they feel I think people feel, Jen, that we're talking to them, that we're going out and talking to people just like them. And you certainly don't see that in the ridiculous, out-of-touch, cosmopolitan assholes that are all over cable news, quoted in the New York Times. This whole fucking cancel culture bullshit debate going on. You guys debate cancel culture, all of the elites. We'll go out in the field and actually talk to people getting killed in communities.
Right.
We'll go out and actually talk to the living victims of the United Corporations of America bank robbery that has been this coronavirus bailout. So while all the other people that live on Twitter and like to get into these intellectual debates about cancel culture and, wokeness and all this bullshit, we're out there with the people. And hopefully it takes off.
And you know what, being there with Bianca, for example, Breonna Taylor's aunt, she said to us off camera as we were leaving, she's like, yeah, next time you're back here, maybe let's do an interview with the whole family, come to the house. And you don't get that, from just sitting in a studio. You get that from being out in the field, and people start to trust you. It wasn't easy to get Breonna Taylor's aunt to agree to an interview. It was because of a connection that we made after we started to gain some trust. So that's what you guys have been funding, and that's really, even though sometimes the views are disappointing, it's gonna catch on, because I truly believe that there is a need for what we're doing. As soon as people learn about Status Quo, they're so excited. And oh my goodness, Gino Fast, $49.99 in the super chat, saying Status Quo donation challenge, your turn, Seth Peterson. We really appreciate you so much. JK, $5 in the super chat. Jordan, you're the bestest that ever bested.
Why? Thank you. I'm gonna steal that. And welcome new Status Quo member Elliot. Woohoo!
Wow.
Thank you,
Welcome,
Elliot. We're now at 5 new members. Wonderful. Thank you. We're now at 1,740, and we got a lot of ground to catch up to. We were almost at 2,000, so obviously we got a long way to go to get back there. But five more. One more clip I want to play before we end, and this is with Jenn. Jenn interviewing protesters. We actually just drove into a protest because honestly, we just got there, so we didn't really have a lot of connections. And with protests, you kind of need contacts. So like in New York, like I don't have that many contacts because usually I cover national things, but like I've been able to like build 1 or 2 people that will text me like be here in like 45 minutes. We didn't have that in Louisville, so we literally had dinner and then we just drove into a protest that was happening spontaneous. So here's Jenn interviewing some folks.
I mean, we need a change in there, and come out and march. I mean, protest, do what you need to do, because if we don't stand up, no one's gonna stand up for us, and we need to.
Because police don't need no money anyway, because all they're doing is that they're taking the money, and half the time they don't even work enough for their money, and then they're writing tickets and citations because they know people can't afford lawyers. So, and then they don't show up to court, and they get to take days off to where they don't even work, and they still get paid because of that.
It needs to, and I mean, we in Louisville, we're not gonna let her go unforgotten. And that's right with McAtee. We're not gonna let them go unjustice, and that's just not for them, but for all of our black people that's been murdered by the cops. We're gonna get justice one day. That's all I can say.
Muhammad Ali, this is the project formerly known as Beecher Terrace that they tore down, that they've yet to rebuild. We moved people out of their communities and their homes. This is another issue that we're facing in Louisville. So we're currently going down Muhammad Ali Boulevard that was named after Muhammad Ali, of course. So on the right is Village West. This is another project to the right of us. It's called Village West. This is just the projects being torn down. We're supposed to rebuild them, but we haven't rebuilt them. We moved people out of their communities that they've lived at for years and years. It was income-based, but we just can't move people. And then this is what we end up with. This has been like this for a year. So, and we're still tearing down more. They moved the people out, but haven't rebuilt. So we shouldn't even move the people out if we ain't gonna rebuild yet. Many of the people in the community are asking the mayor to resign. My personal opinion, I don't think he will resign. He can't be reelected because this is his last term. He has 2 more years. So I think right now he's just basically saying, fuck Louisville, whatever happens, happens.
That was great reporting by Jenn. Literally, she jumped out of the car with Jamal and got in there and interviewed folks. What were your feelings speaking with them? What did you take out of that?
So as you said, it was really interesting because we had no idea it was happening. And kind of another behind the scenes piece is that they don't want people to know when the protests are happening and where. They happen every night, but because they've had infiltrators, they've had local media misrepresent things, you really have to gain the trust of the protesters, of the activists, to find anything out. So that was the first night where we hadn't really made many contacts at all. So we just happened to be driving home from dinner and saw this protest going by. And as Jordan said, Jamal and I hopped out. And I asked a lot about, the passion, the fact that they are out there every single night, the fact that it took so long for Breonna Taylor's name to become nationally known. And I learned a lot of really interesting and really horrifying things, such as the gentrification issue, which we then later on learned ties into potentially ties into what happened to Breonna Taylor, where one gentleman showed me where they had just knocked down low income housing in order to build a fancier, better um, building, and it's devastating the community. So these people, a lot of them have been active since long before George Floyd and Breonna Taylor's murders, um, but obviously it's sparked this whole new drive to keep going, and it's brought more people into the fold. There are a lot of young people out there. These people, as of the time we left, I think they were hitting or about to hit their 40th day of straight protests every single night. Meanwhile, the cops are messing with them and doing ridiculous things such as taking down their shade tents, and they persevere. They are not going to stop. And so yeah, just getting a sense of people. And actually the woman there, her daughter is very active in the protest. That older woman that you saw, very active in the protest. She actually ran up. She was sitting in her car, but she ran over to Jamal and me and handed us ice cold waters, because we'd been marching for a while with the protesters. And that's the same thing that I saw in DC, where protesters take care of each other. They constantly have waters to give out and snacks to give out and ways to keep each other going, because it's hard work being out there every single night. What they're doing, they aren't out there for fun. They're out there to demand justice. And so it was really enlightening being in the midst of the protesters and just seeing their passion and their commitment to continuing on, and also their knowledge about exactly what's happening in their city and what needs to happen.
I love it. You were great out there. Welcome, new Status Quo member, Sarah. Woohoo!
Welcome.
Holy cow! We've opened
awesome.
the floodgates here. So we are at 1,741 Status Quo members. So 6 new members. And I will say, Jen, I don't want to be the Debbie Downer in this discussion, but I do have to be consistent. Protesters, I don't want to be the white guy telling you what to do. Please wear a mask. Because in New York, when I was covering the protests, exceptions here and there, but most people were wearing masks. Don't get complacent. I know it's a pain in the ass, but, you're not out of the woods if you're Louisville or anywhere else. I did see a lot of people not wearing masks there, and it's just, unfortunately, it's really the only thing we could do right now. And by the way, I just read that the numbers are starting to tick back up in Louisville after decreasing for a while. So, I know that in a way, and I've heard this from protesters, like, listen, we're just as likely to get killed by police tonight than by this pandemic. I get that. I mean, I don't get it because I'm a white dude and I don't fear like you have to fear. But I'm just saying, protesters citywide, Louisville, as best as you can, keep that mask on, because when you're
everybody, I don't. We shouldn't really.
Well, no, not just Louisville.
Lecturing the people of Louisville, like everybody, just wear your mask.
Particular with the shouting and people, just particles are going all over the place. So. Me hope, but also angers me, Jen. How much better and smarter are these people we talk to than anyone quoted in the New York Times or on CNN? I mean, just that amazing poet we spoke with was amazing. Maybe I'll play some of that Sunday. It was just
Hannah Drake.
Great. These people are so much better.
I can hear you. Oh, I guess.
1 2 1 2 1 2. It's that lightning cable. Remember I told you this lightning cable goes in and out, but I'm back. Jacqueline.
Yeah, the U.S.
Jacqueline, what I was saying is your support from across the pond. When this pandemic is over, if it's ever over, I'm definitely going to have to come over there. And thank you. Maybe I'll make some fish and chips, even though I don't know how to do that. I appreciate your continued support from over there. And say hello to your cat. I'm not a big cat person, but it's growing on me.
You can learn to like cats.
Okay. You can learn? Yes. So anyway, this has been an eventful show. Do we have another one? Oh, Erica, new member Erica. Woohoo!
Welcome, Erica.
Thank you. So
this is so exciting.
Look at this. Now we're humming, we're moving, we're shaking. I love it. Thank you to all 7 new members so far today. So we're at 1,742. I will be live again Sunday, around noon Eastern. I say around because Sunday I like to take hot, long showers in the morning. My girlfriend yells at me. She says I'm wasting water. But I will be live 12-ish, 9 a.m. Pacific. On Sunday, we'll play more of the interviews we did from the road trip. Hopefully get more new Status Quo members. We'll see if Trump, nukes somebody by Sunday. Hopefully coronavirus isn't worse by Sunday. But unfortunately right now, I haven't even looked at GoFundMe. Let me see. Holy cow! Miles Robinson, $100 in the GoFundMe. Holy cow! Lewis, $10. Carrie, $75. Thank you. I didn't want to push GoFundMe too much because I'm pushing membership, and you don't want to push 17 things at once. But yes, we do still have the GoFundMe going, so we'll get back to that soon. We are almost at $112,000, so that's amazing. And listen, if we could steady growth like this, if we could get, obviously we would love more, but if we could start getting back to that, 7 to 10 new members a day, that's healthy. It would be healthier to have 20 to 50 new members a day, but we definitely need to start getting back up there. So thank you to all the new members. In celebration, maybe I'll do a members video for tomorrow. Jenn posted some members content, correct, from the trip?
Yeah, soon. So
Jenn will be posting some of the behind the scenes content. Once you become a member, go to statusquo.com, the member section, member content, right, Jenn?
Mm-hmm.
So people can check out the videos there. We also have monthly members calls. So we'll probably have our July members call possibly next week. Sometimes we get bored and do 2. And it is a pandemic, so we got nothing better to do.
Oh my God.
Maybe we'll do 2 members calls this week. They're on Zoom. They're video calls, but you don't have to be on video. You can mute your video screen. So thank you for watching. I'll let everybody go have dinner now on the East Coast. Any parting words, Jenn?
No, just thank you guys so much. Being on the road trip was invigorating, and I feel like we did really important work. And once again, we could not have done that without you. The support was just amazing. It seems like 100 years ago, because being on the trip on a road trip, the days are so long and the days run into each other. But there was a time where we weren't even sure we'd be able to afford to make it down to Louisville. But thanks to your support in the road trip fundraiser, we were able to make it and get content that is just so touching and meaningful and impactful, and I thank you guys. And if you wanna get some more behind the scenes stuff from that trip, I definitely again urge you become a member. statusquo.com/join a month, posting more stuff, and yeah, it's because of you guys that we're out here doing this. So we love you all.
Absolutely. And one personal request. A lot of you might have not seen most of the videos we posted because YouTube didn't alert you. So, if you have time tonight, maybe tomorrow, go to the homepage, click on video, click on these videos if you haven't seen them. Share these videos, like these videos, comment on these videos, because YouTube has been hiding them from the people. So we need you to help get them out there. Share them on your social media. Of course, like them. Commenting helps with the algorithm, all that stuff. Particularly the video interview we did with Breonna Taylor's aunt. If you haven't been able to watch that, please share that. Make a separate post on Facebook, on Twitter, on Twitch, on LinkedIn, on whatever. We need to get this important stuff out there. So thank you, Jen. I'll be back Sunday. And until if something breaks, I'll go live tomorrow if important. Thank you. Peace out.
Bye, guys.